All right, I'm here with Logan Allen, pitcher for the Cleveland Indians. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's good to see you as always.
Yeah, real good to see you. You doing okay in this quarantine time? holding
Yeah, hanging in
holding
there,
up all right?
holding up
Itching to
okay.
get back in the game a bit, huh?
Absolutely. I
This
cannot
has
wait
got
to
to
get
be
back on the field.
this has got to be one of the most bizarre times for you in like your baseball career. I know it's not the you're still so young, so it's not like you got
Right.
decades and decades of baseball experience, but this has just got to be weird.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it except for the fact that growing up, we always played baseball and we're always like, I wish we had a spring break. All those spring breakers are so lucky, this and that. Well, this was like a spring break for us, like a spring month. It's like
Yeah.
terrible. But what the worst part of it is we got through almost through spring training. We're 5, 6 days away. You're starting to pack your stuff up, and they go, "Oh, hold up, quarantine." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just don't understand like what's happening or um, anything else as far as that goes. But yeah, dude, we're hanging in there. The team's still really close right now, and it's just a really good opportunity to you know get get closer to God and kind of do some soul searching as well. Some off the field things, and you take it one day at a time.
Yeah. And I would love to talk more about that with you in a little bit, but I'm glad to hear you're doing okay. And so you're out in Arizona right now, and you were just telling me uh, the other day you did some live BP, and it was 100 degrees, man.
Yeah, man.
little different than Cleveland right now, just so you know, just in case you didn't
Way
know.
different. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
way
currently it's
different.
100 degrees right now. It is very warm here. I am in a sweatshirt, but that's only because we have to keep the air conditioning so low to
The
keep the house
AC's
cold.
cranked, right? The AC's
The
cranked right now.
air
Yeah,
conditioning bill's a little higher here than it is back in Cleveland. So
yeah,
there
I
will be
believe that,
no
man.
there will be no opening windows here in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Makes sense. I believe it. So I appreciate you just being willing to have this conversation. I'm just really looking forward to it. So just as we dive in here, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story? Like, where did you grow up? And as you were growing up, uh, did you go to church? You just mentioned, we're using this time to kind of refocus and work on your relationship with God. So where did that relationship with Jesus start for you?
So I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I don't remember too much when I was really little from my parents, but I do remember when we moved to Asheville, North Carolina. When I was probably 4-ish years old, we had made the move with my family, and then we had started going to church called Grace. It was Grace Church of God. It was non-denominational. My dad was raised Catholic. My mom wasn't, and my parents felt that it was in my best interest to go to a non-denominational church and kind of figure out in what way I wanted to help worship God and show my faith in God. So I was in Asheville, North Carolina for a long time. Went to the same church. Then I was probably 12-ish years old, and so I'll backtrack. I have two brothers. I have a 32-year-old handicapped brother right now. He's 10 years older than I am. I'm 22. And I have an 18-year-old brother. His name is Bryson. The older one's name is Philip. So when Philip was, so I was 12. When Philip was in his early 20s, he's at the house, and my parents were obviously taking care of him. So he's handicapped. He's severe cerebral palsy. Can't walk. Can't talk. He can see only out of the corners of his eyes. But when he was born normal, when he was 2 years old, had the capillaries in his brain stem exploded, causing a brain aneurysm. I was little. My parents felt they were on very, very much on top of the world in their life. They were both, good, godly Christians. And, Philip went into a coma for about 13 months, I think. I always get the number wrong because I've told the story a million times, but he
Wow.
was in a coma
Yeah.
for over a year. Um, family went bankrupt, family struggled a lot. They were told Philip's never going to survive, blah, blah, blah. There was a point where my dad, the doctor was begging my dad, like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. So my dad was in the NHL, made a lot of money. My mom was very successful as well. So they had the money to keep him there for a long time, but they were bankrupt after over a year. of being in the
Hmm.
hospital. I mean, that is a
Wow.
long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. My goodness.
my dad said he went to the funeral home to pick out a casket, and he said the second he opened one up, he got this chill down his spine where he had no idea what was going on, and it just something just told him to just turn around and walk out because he was planning on, taking Philip off. I don't think he was planning on. He was being urged to take Philip off life support. Um, a couple days later, next day, my dad was fuzzy on the details, but Philip woke up. So he had a trach, a feeding tube, all that. Was the
Wow.
happiest kid in the world from then on. So
Huh.
they took care of him all the way until he was probably 22 years old, and then we are all at home with a babysitter. And Philip's been good, and my parents left the house for the first time in years for a date night. I mean,
Hmm.
I couldn't tell you the time my parents we had left the house. We'd occasionally go out, we'd take them to dinner with us, whatever. But they left. They went to see the Eagles in Cherokee, North Carolina. So it was probably an almost 2-hour drive. They loved the Eagles, so they were out. We were happy for them. Well,
Yeah.
Philip's alarm started going off. Philip winded up having a lung collapse early that night into our sleep, and the babysitter woke us up. They called the ambulance, all that. I ran downstairs. I'm in tears. I see Philip turn blue. My parents had just gotten home, so it really wasn't like he got home. They got home to check on us. They got home, got right in the ambulance, went right to the hospital. He was air flighted to Duke the next morning because they had helped. They took him into surgery to help his lung, but then it put so much strain on his heart. They decided he needed a pacemaker, so he also had a pacemaker put in shortly after. And at that time, I had been going to church every day, and the first thought in my head is like, why would God do this? Like, this kid is the happiest kid in the world.
Wow. Yeah.
He's never hurt a fly. He always smiles. He's not selfish. He doesn't. I mean, he can't say anything, but you know what he's saying. You know his vibe, his feeling, and he was just my sunshine. He was my everything. He was happy. He was just our relationship to Philip has always been different. My parents can't explain it. Little brother doesn't like. No, I can't explain it. It's just him and I have this connection that is completely different from anybody else in the family. And so I blamed God. I decided from then on I wasn't going to step into church. I was like,
And
God
how
did this.
old were you at that
This
point?
was God. Probably 12 or 13,
Oh, so
maybe.
you have full memories of all
Oh,
that taking place.
everything,
Like that's so
everything.
vivid for you,
I
right?
stayed with my like little league coach, who was Darren Holmes. He was a longtime major league pitcher for the Braves. Made a lot of money. He was the Rockies bullpen coach as of last year. Now he's the Baltimore Orioles pitching coach, I believe. He was one I was always around at church with as well, and his son and daughter. But I went and stayed at his house. I mean, I didn't talk. I didn't care about baseball. I didn't care about anything. I was just mad. I was angry at God. Why would you do this? I was mortified. So that was where I kind of had a point in my life where God wasn't really a huge part of my life, and it was like that for a pretty long time. I had gotten into my freshman and sophomore year of high school, and was at uh, TC Robertson in North Carolina, and I didn't. I just played baseball, and I was obviously occupied with travel ball. So Sunday church was never an option, and because of what I did and how I felt, it
Now
affected my.
during those
You're good.
years, was your family still were your parents still engaged with church and
No,
stuff?
what
No.
my what
Okay,
I had
gotcha.
said had made an impact on my family. Now, my
Wow.
dad being from Canada and being a super manly man, he always kept his religion to himself. Like, he never wanted anybody to feel like he was pushing religion towards him. And but my dad always told me growing up, you do you do the right thing, good thing happens. You worship in the right way, the good things are going to happen to you. And that's why I, as a kid, was like, why is God doing this? We're doing everything right. We're such give. We give to the community. We worship God. We give to the church. We support so many people around us, and it was kind of like a test for our family, I guess, is the way we had looked at it. But I had gotten into high school, and baseball had taken over, and nothing had changed for me. I knew my parents were, my mom was always spewing some good things at me. I don't want to say spewing, but was always lecturing, not spewing anything out of the Bible. I
Just
don't mean
always
it that
giving you
way, but
positive encouragement. Yeah,
there we go.
there we go.
Sorry, I'm combining like a pregame speech that you don't want to hear in the Bible. So
That's funny,
but
man. Yeah.
she was always positive and very positive in her way of speaking God to me, and my dad was too. But obviously, that hit my dad pretty hard at that time too. My little brother didn't know too much at the time about what was going on, but because his big brother was blaming God, he wanted to blame God. Like that was something I always, looking back, I don't want to say it made me a better person. I obviously would wish something like that never had happened. I wish he was, obviously he's all healthy today. We have 24-hour nursing, but it really did help me become the man I am today. So as I'm a sophomore in high school, I had this hard decision of leaving home to go from North Carolina to Florida and go to an all sports boarding school in Bradenton, Florida. And something was just telling me to go. Something was like, hey, this is a good opportunity. This is, you need to go. And in my head, I wasn't thinking maybe this is God. Maybe I was just thinking maybe my logic's going this way. Because at first, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave North Carolina. I just wanted to stay. And then something just changed. So I get down to Florida, and they have these dorms you stay in my first year, and they have Sunday trips where you can go to church, depending on, because they had all faiths and religions, and you could go to whatever church you want to, or some of the other religions you could do, go wherever you go on whatever day you worship. And about 3 weeks in there, I was like, you know what, we're gonna try this again. And I went by myself. I didn't know.
So that was by yourself. There
people.
wasn't anyone else that you knew. It was
No,
like, hey, Logan, let's check this out.
No, I just went, and it like, I was like, I'm gonna go. Well, I get in, I get off the bus, and I take 5 steps into it, and then they start playing their music, like the worship music that gets you going, and I just start crying hysterically. I'm like,
wow.
I
As a
couldn't do it.
sophomore in high school.
Junior, so I just got to my
This was
junior year of
junior
high
year.
school.
Okay, gotcha.
This
Wow.
is right when I got down to Florida, and I just couldn't do it.
Wow.
I had flashbacks to everything, and it was just extremely hard. It was extremely hard for me. So I had left and sat outside. I just had a really hard time, putting myself back in there, especially alone. So I had made it was hard. So I had started that I'm going to take it a step at a time. I went and got a Bible from the store on like one of the team trips you signed up for. They can go. And I just started reading I would open up a random part of the book. I mean, just random part of the Bible as I could, and just read a few pages and just kind of start easing my way back into, scripture and things like that. And then I always told myself after that, the next time I went into a church, I was going to be super comfortable, super attentive, and be with someone that I either care deeply about or someone I trust, and I would know when the right time was. So I did that for about a year until I graduated. And the first thing I did when I got to pro ball was I saw there was baseball chapel, but I didn't notice that so you see it, but I didn't like pick up on it until I got traded from Boston to San Diego. When I got to San Diego, they had, the Bible chapel and stuff in Fort Wayne, Indiana, when I got to Loa. So I got curious. I started getting really close to my teammates.
Yeah.
To certain teammates. I will use this guy as an example. Will Hayden, he was a teammate of mine at the time. He doesn't play anymore, I don't think, but him and I were very close, and we lived together. And he was the one that he always had a Bible open. He was always, as attentive to God as he could. And I started going with him to baseball chapel, just because it was every Sunday. It was every, you were staying on track. You're around the same comfortable group of people. And that's what really opened the door for me again. It was incredible. my relationship with God had flourished again. And one of the first times I went in there, it talked about like God's plan and like how bad things can happen, things that you don't expect can and will happen. Um, and it's not God punishing you, or for me, in my case, it wasn't punishing Philip. This was something that was meant to be as a whole family, and it just happened. But our goal was to lift Philip up through this, lift the family up, and it made the family ever as close as ever after it.
That's incredible.
So for
So,
me, that was a huge turning point. Yeah, that was a huge turning point.
wow. So, yeah. So talk to me. I mean, geez, that story in of itself is incredible. And I think what you said there at the end is so important. You know, when people ask the why God, or why would God do this to me or to someone
Mhm.
else, or in your case to your brother, to your family. And yeah, I've always believed, like, I don't think God, I think he's a good father, and he doesn't want these bad things to happen to us, but because we live in a broken world, bad things happen to us. There's sin, and there's brokenness, and things just happen to people. But what I'm
Yeah,
thankful
and
for, and what you talk about, is like God, even in the midst of the brokenness, because he is good, can redeem it and turn things around, and make an incredible story out of it. So
absolutely. And that's another thing. It's like my whole thought was, why is God doing this? I never even thought to my head, like, why is Satan doing this? Like, why is he bringing himself out and doing this to my brother? My original thought is as God, there's other aspects of this that God protects us from, and things like that. So that was a realization for me. And Baseball Chapel was really, uh, what had brought it out to me. Now it's not the 3 hour, um, church you're used to, the long sermon and the long, uh, just
yeah, it's
day you have on a
it's
Sunday.
20 minutes max,
Yeah, it's
which
20,
may not be
25
bad.
minutes
It,
before a game.
shuts me up real quick. Those messages.
Yeah, you're at the game.
That's
We're like,
funny.
hey, we got another thing. We're like, hey, we got a game. We got to go. So
Hey,
like
Mike,
that part,
sorry, you need to stop preaching. We got to go. Oh, okay,
we got to go. I mean,
gotcha.
that's the part of it that's crazy to me. It really is. It was really small, and that's what people don't understand. It's like, oh, Baseball Chapel, because we don't have time to go to church on Sundays. If there's a Sunday night game, which I'd be good luck finding a lot of Sunday night games for us, it'd be ideal, but there isn't. It's all usually day games, and right around the time people are coming out of church, they're coming to our games, and we would have to be at the field much earlier. So
Yeah.
it's a situation where Baseball Chapel really does so well.
And I
Um,
think that's one
so
of the unique things that a lot of people that aren't in the game or around the game uh, wouldn't necessarily think about. As a ball player, as a man who's trying to live out his faith and his relationship with Jesus. Yeah, you don't get to worship at church on a Sunday,
you don't, yeah,
like
but you don't
like
realize
or
how
have that
many,
opportunity.
you don't realize how many amazing Christian men are in the baseball world,
Right.
because you see us on the field, you see us at a steakhouse or at a restaurant between games, or on TV or spring training. You don't see us in those rooms in the back of Progressive Field, speaking our faith and doing our due diligence and worshiping God. And it's just like us. We don't get to see all the amazing Christian fans that are at the games and things like that. We see it online, we see it here, and we appreciate it when we can. But like, no one understands. Like, there's so many people that you might hate. If you're a Twins fan, hates me, but we have the same beliefs and things as a Christian. And we might meet outside of baseball, and it becomes this huge relationship bond. and and who knows, and especially on our platform, us speaking the word of God just in public and things could really influence someone else that is just they're drawn to me for baseball, and now I've brought them into a whole new world of our Lord and Savior. So um Baseball Chapel has opened up so many doors for me, and it's to the point now where I do go to church when I can. I do go to, and I obviously don't miss a baseball chapel. I will miss an occasional Bible study with you, but that doesn't
I won't hold it
forget that.
against you. I'll let it slide. It's okay.
But it's opened up so many doors for me, and I always told myself that, you know, I would always go back with, you know, someone I'm comfortable with, and God has brought an amazing person in my life to be able to feel comfortable into doing that again. So, you know, there's many things that all the negative things that I've spewed. There we go. I used it right that time. All the negative things.
It's a word of the day, I guess now. So
all the negative things that I've said, like, you know, there are a lot of good things that have come from what's happened, regardless of the circumstance.
Yeah. So talk a little bit, even in your journey and your story that you shared, you know, going to church when you were at that academy as a junior in high school, that was kind of by yourself. Going to the store to get your Bible, that was kind of by yourself. And then you talked about once you got into pro ball and coming to baseball chapel, you began to find a little bit of that community piece. And, you know, kind of like you're talking about that brotherhood, those other guys. And I think that's so important because of the uniqueness of not having that natural, I guess, local church community that a lot of other people, like we were just talking about, get to have, which presents probably some of the difficulty of living out your faith in professional baseball. But yeah, talk about that a little bit, about that importance of community, you know, with those guys, and just how you've seen God at work in you and through you in those.
Yeah. So, I obviously did all that stuff on my own. Excuse me. I did a lot of those things on my own, but I didn't know what it was like to have that community of baseball players. You don't realize how many baseball players are on the same level as you are when it comes to, you know, just wanting somewhere to listen, even if it's just listen to everything. So when I was at Will and Low A, and then I got I was in AAA with San Diego, and that's when I really dove into doing a group thing. So I had a roommate named Dietrich Enns, incredible Christian guy that has helped me tremendously in just becoming one with the Bible every night and stuff, especially in season. And that's when I realized how the community is such a good thing. So I got to Cleveland. Getting to know Mike Freeman has been an unbelievable thing for me. The guy's awesome. His family's awesome. I call him Dad. You know, that guy is an
little story behind that. Right.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Great story behind that.
He's incredible.
He's awesome, dude. And just having guys like that around, just that every Sunday, that even there's going to be those days that you get to the field early on a Sunday, you're eating your breakfast, or you could be watching a movie on your phone, you got something to do, and he goes, hey, chapel. And it's like, okay, I have to go. I can't let these guys down. Like, I got to be back there like I am every time. You know, you might be at home and you're got your feet up on the couch, you're sore after a workout, and you're in the morning, and you're like, I'll go next week, or whatever the case is, or I'll watch it on my iPad. I don't need to go. That's the difference. You have that accountability. And it's not like you're being forced. It's a want. It's a desire to be around those guys that are there every Sunday with you, every Wednesday.
That's good. The importance of community there, that accountability.
It turns that accountability. Yeah. It feels like it makes you accountable without being pressured to do it. It's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right, and that's so well said, Logan. That's so well said. So even with that community piece, has it been difficult? So you talked about going from Boston to San Diego, and in San Diego, right, you had your major league debut, and then shortly after you're in Cleveland, right? Shortly after that.
Yeah.
So is that and further, like, you spent time in your life in Florida, North Carolina, San Diego, great weather, and now you're in beautiful Cleveland, man. Welcome.
Yeah,
well, whenever you're able to come here, welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. Once it warms up a little bit,
yeah,
it gets like
110
here.
Yeah.
We'll use over there. So.
Yeah. So even that, I think, is just one of the unique things of the baseball world is you can have these relationships with guys like you're talking about, have that community, and then the next minute you're on a different team, an entirely different city on the other side of the country. So how have you seen, God at work in that, or community kind of play out, even going from San Diego to Cleveland?
Yeah, oh man, having that thought of community and God while I'm in my move made it so much easier for me to get from San Diego to Cleveland. San Diego was obviously great. I had a great group of dudes there, good community. But when you're going somewhere new, you really don't know. There could have been, I don't know, there could have been two guys that went to chapel. There could have been 20. You don't know. So it's like the first time you get there, you kind of feel it out. And you're like, okay, like, make sure I know when it is. Make sure you go. Make sure you go. Force yourself to go. Don't just stick your toe in. Just jump all the way in, man. That's the only advice I can give to people when it comes to, for me, it's just buying in. When I bought into the fact that when I get there, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to be, it made my transition so much easier. And the craziest thing was the first guy I had a conversation with in Cleveland was Mike Freeman. And that was the whole story I had about him being my coach at Clemson camp when I was 12 years old. It made Mike feel old, but that was for me. That was
Well,
okay.
yeah,
I'm building a
Freeman and I
relationship.
are the same age, so we're both in that old boat compared to you. Just start calling me dad as well, man.
Well, I just didn't know I didn't know who he was as a person, as a man of God at the time. So like that first connection there and being able to make a friendly face and how nice he was made it approachable and made it, when we go to chapel, that okay, he's a guy I can go to. He was, he's just an awesome dude. Entire family. So that was my transition to Cleveland was incredible, and it would made it super smooth that way. Seeing like our coaches in there, obviously having Mills, as a part of that too. When I just met him was, that stuff's huge. So my transition was great because of that. But it is difficult going from Boston to San Diego to Cleveland, especially when you're on such a routine with everybody. And that's the first time we had met, and it's just one of those things that those challenges God throws at you. And it's one of those things that he goes, okay, you're moving from city to city. Are you going to show up? Are you going to continue to do what you've been doing? Are you going to stick to, having my back like I've had yours? And it's one of those things like, you dive in, follow through with it.
Right.
Everything works
And
out.
and even what you were talking about, you being active and pursuing that community and those relationships. I just think that's so good and important for people to hear. I think so many times people are passive. Oh, God, I just need you to open, all these relationships up to me and you bring them to me. I'll just sit here and wait. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, you got to be active. You got to go for it. You got to pursue that. And that's part of the adventure and the journey, I think, that God uses, to help us find that community. So I would love to hear, and I think you alluded to some of it as well, but what do you see God doing in your life now, or even in your family's life, currently?
For me, it's just, it's keeping me grounded. It's brought me relationships I never thought I would have, and it's brought me like my own little family, your fellowship, it's led me to a pretty incredible person in my life. I could share my love for God with, and it's it's just a blessing. I mean, obviously everybody says God's great, but I truly think the path I've been down has led me down to where I am today, and it's like I said, bringing me to these people. It's made me more aware of what I say and what I'm saying, like is how I'm preaching the word of God, and how as a member of the community, it's one of those things that if I hadn't taken that leap at IMG and gone to church the first time and bought that Bible again, would I be the same person? Would I be a more selfish baseball player worried about other things? It definitely has changed who I am as a person.
Incredible. Yeah. God has a way of doing that to us, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
If we allow him, man, if we allow him. So that's so good. So, as we were talking about at the start of this conversation, we're just in unique times right now, stay at home stuff, everything with the coronavirus that's hit our entire world. And I think a lot of people just need some encouragement and some hope. So if you were to say anything or share, something with people that may be watching this, what would you want to say to them and encourage them with?
For me, I've been wanting to reach out to as many baseball players that are who I was when I was 16, 15, younger, older. It was just buying and trusting God's plan. This time is so unbelievably crazy and hectic, and you're not sure what's going to happen, if we're going to play, when we're going to play, whether you're going to play a senior season, anything like that. So for me, it was just trusting in God's plan. And my mom has thrown Jeremiah 29:11 at me for the longest time. Very popular verse. Had it tattooed on my body. It was something it's definitely a part of my life. So if I would suggest anything, if you're struggling with this time, if you're struggling with God, just open up the Bible. Don't hesitate to open it up. I don't care what page it's on. Your eyes are going to go to something you need. I can't explain it besides that God is there to help you. So that's what I did. I'm not saying everybody's journeys is as crazy as mine has been, but just open the Bible. Just start reading a little bit.
That's so good, Logan. I appreciate you just sharing your story, your journey of baseball, what God's done in your life and in your family, and what he continues to do. And, I think we just met a couple months ago at spring training. It's the first time we met. And just in a couple months, it's just been a privilege getting to know you, and the fact that you are only 22 years old and not only have like all these amazing gifts and abilities that God's given you, obviously in baseball and other things, but the maturity that you have in your relationship with Jesus as that foundation. I'm so excited to see what he's going to do, not only in you, but through you as the years goes on, as your career goes on. And so I just thank you for you sharing some of that with us here. So appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you as well, man. This has been awesome.
All right. Talk to you soon, Logan.
All right, man. Take care.
Bye.
Later.